Okay, welcome to this video. We're going to start drawing or creating our first actual model in this particular video. It's going to be a very simple sort of blocky style car, and we're going to do it in a couple of different ways just to experiment with some of the ways you might go about drawing and creating in Sketchup. This is by no means a definitive approach to drawing and building in Sketchup. It is just a very quick introduction to help get you started. So I have here a blank page ready to go. I'm going to start by cleaning up my space and removing this character here. So I'm going to select him and I'm just going to right click and choose erase. I could have used the eraser tool as well to do the same task. Now the first way I'm going to start this particular car is by drawing a set of shapes and basically building it up from there. So if I think about a car, or at least a case of a sort of blocky style car, it kind of starts with a rectangular body. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle here. And again, I'm using a mouse, which we've talked about in a previous video. So I'm using the scroll wheel to move in and out for my zoom. And also by clicking that wheel, I can pan and rotate much more easily. If you don't have a mouse and you need to do those things, again, you're going to have to come and select individual tools down here to do the same task. So again, strongly encourage you to get a mouse if you can. But anyway, let's go back to the car. So I've got my basic shape, if you like. This is going to be the body of the car. And then what I want to do is build the top part of the car. So I'm going to draw another rectangle on here. Now, some things to know about SketchUp. Areas like this we call faces, okay? And anytime you have a face, it basically means you've got an enclosed shape, and you can draw on that face to then push and pull and otherwise modify it. When we talk about edges or lines, we talk about them being called an edge, and you can attach things to an edge. So you can see as I move along this edge here, I've got a red dot where my tool is, or a red square I should say, and that's telling me that this is a point that I can connect something else to. There's also a couple special edging points, so when we get to a corner or an end of a line, we call it an end point, and you can see it goes green. And we also always have a midpoint, and it goes to a sort of blue circle. And so they're really useful for knowing that along this particular edge, here is an end. Of course, we have another end down the other end, and we also always know where our midpoint is. So it makes it very easy for us to find some of those common places we want to work from. Now, I don't really want any of those this time, but I do want to make sure I'm starting from an edge. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my edge here, click and hold my drawing tool, and I'm going to come across to the second side to the edge here. So I've now drawn a rectangular shape that is on this face, all right, and it's going from edges to edges. Now, why I do that? Because if I take my selection tool again for a minute, I've now separated this big face into three smaller faces. So I've got one face there, two faces, and three faces. So anytime you cut essentially a face by drawing it in some way, you create new subfaces. And I can now interact with these faces separately. So I've got this bigger centerpiece here. So what I want to do is take my push-pull tool again, and I'm just going to pull that piece up by itself. So it didn't affect this face or this face, it's just pulled this one up. And you'll notice now I have that face, but I also have these side faces that have been created. Okay, so I'm starting to get kind of a shape for a car. Now, if I think about a car, I'm going to make this area up here the front and this area the back. At the back, quite often we have more of an angled piece, so there'll be a back window, and the front is often a little bit more shallow angled. So this time I'm going to take a pencil tool, so just using a free line at the moment, not a scribble line, and starting from this endpoint, which is the corner of these two faces here, I'm going to just go from there. I'm just going to draw a line so it joins onto this edge up here. So I've just again drawn a section here, and on the back I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it at a bigger angle. So I'm going to go this way. Okay, so this is starting to be my car. Now what I'm going to do again with my push-pull tool is I'm going to push that section out, and I'm going to push that section out. So I've got my shape. Now I'm looking at this and I've actually decided that I'm going to now change. I'm going to make this the front with the deeper angle, and this one the back. So I've just decided to change the direction of my car, but that's okay. I just thought it looks a bit better now the other way. I'm going to create some wheel arches now, a place for the wheels to go. So what I'm going to do is now change from my square tool to my round tool, my circle. And the way circles work is it draws from the center out. So where we click and start, you can see the sort of bluey diamond in there. That's the center of the circle, and it's going to expand outwards from the center. So I don't want my wheels all the way up here. I want to come down a bit. So I'm going to start at around about this spot. In fact, I'm going to start right on the edge, just for the sake. I'm going to just bring it out a bit, okay? And I'm going to draw one wheel there, and I'll come up the front here, and I'll do another wheel there, okay? So I've got two wheels, but again, at the moment, they're just these flat circles. They are not wheels of their own, okay? What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go back to this wheel, so the center is still there, and I'm going to draw a bigger one that goes on the outside to create the space the wheel is going to go in. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Just go out a bit, okay? And before I pull and push these through, I'm just going to do a couple of things. Firstly, I'm going to take my eraser tool and I'm going to delete the line in the middle so this becomes a full circle, and do the same on this side. I'm then going to delete this outside big circle because that's not needed. Okay, that's not there anymore. So I wanted to get rid of these wheel arches, that's right. So I'm going to use my push-pull tool to select just that face, so not the wheel, but the push part there, and I'm just going to push them in a bit, okay, to create this sort of thing. Now, again, we've just broken that lovely bottom that we made, but don't worry too much about that. But what we do want to do is bring that arch all the way to the other side. Okay, so if I look on the other side, there we go. We're starting to almost come through. Oh, I've grabbed the wrong part there. Undo. Control Z or Command Z, depending if you're on Mac keyboard. Okay, got to be careful with your push-pull tool that you don't grab the wrong part. Let's try and do the front one. So I'm going to come all the way across to that line there and rotate round. That's better. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, this one's just a little bit out for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Might have to double check that one in a second. All right. Now let's concentrate back on our wheel for a second. You can see those lines came back for some reason, probably when I was undoing something else. I'm just going to remove those. What else do we want to do to this car quickly? Again, this is not perfect. This is just a really quick introduction. Oh, we want to put some lines in to create windows and stuff. So let's just use our line tool. Let's maybe draw a straight line across here for the tops of the doors. Let's maybe find the center there. There we go. And create a line down there. And let's maybe come down here to the wheel arch. Yep, that'll do. And let's come down here to the wheel arch. That'll do. Okay, and actually we'll split this down here as well. So we've created just some shaping that's going to be for our car. And that will probably do for the moment. That's the drawing part. Again, it's not perfect, okay, but we've just been drawing some stuff. We could very easily, let's go add some headlights actually. We'll just quickly go add some headlights, and we'll use the circle tool just to put a headlight about here and another one about, let's do about here. Now I'm not measuring anything carefully, of course. I'm just doing rough drawings at the moment. This is just more about practicing some of the tools. Okay, that's pretty much our car. Now, we are going to color this car. I'll put some textures on it in a second, but we won't do that yet. What I want to do is just another method for maybe drawing this vehicle. We won't do the whole thing again. I'm just going to start with another quick method. And to do that, I'm actually going to change my view. I'm not going to start in this sort of 3D view. I'm going to start in a flat view. So a quick way to do that, I mean, I can rotate this around and try and make it look flat, but a quicker way to do that is actually come across to our scene, so that little clicker board here. Okay, and up the top of scenes, we have the common directions. So these sort of ones through the middle cross, if you like, are the default directions. So we've got a top view in the section, in the top here. We've got left and right view, back and front view. So what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to start with, let's say, no, not that one, not that one. I'm going to start with where we were. So this is the exact side-on view of what my where my card's being drawn, and I'm just going to move across a bit. So I'm not going to use my wheel this time. I'm going to use the hand tool just to move without adjusting anything else too much. Okay, there we go. All right. So the reason I've changed this view is it's much easier to do what I'm about to do when I'm in a straight view as opposed to a sort of 3D view, because what I want to do here is I'm going to start by just drawing a rectangle, but I wanted it to be on this axis. Okay, so it's not floating backwards into space. It is just a flat shape here. Okay, and the reason I did that, in fact, I don't like that one. I'm going to go a bit bigger. Is it's on the green axis perfectly the way I want at the moment. And you'll see why that's important in a second. Okay, so now I've essentially got this flat panel. The rest of what we're going to do is fine, so I'm going to pop that away. And I'm going to start this time by taking this flat side and drawing the outline of my car, basically, and then I'm just going to push and pull it out to give it three-dimensional shape. So I'm not going to do exactly the same car. This time I'm going to do something with a bit more curve. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my curve tool. Actually, I'll start with the box still. So I'll start with, no, actually I'm going to take the pencil tool. I'm going to start by sort of roughly sketching out just the overall shape that I'm looking for. So again, I'm doing something a bit like this. Okay, nothing's being measured at the moment, I'm just drawing roughly, but I want a bit more curve to this car. Okay, I'm going to take my arc tool and I'm going to be using this second one here. It's a 2D, or sorry, a 2-point arc, which basically means when I click on it, I pick one point, I pick a second point by clicking, and then as I move my mouse, I get an arc being created. Okay, and depending on how much I move my arc, it depends on how round it is, basically. So I don't want it super round, I just wanted to put a little bit of curve into this one. I'm going to do the same on, oh, I've lost something. Must have undone something while I wasn't looking properly. So let's just quickly draw the front of my car back in. There we go. And come back and get my arc. So I wanted to create a bit more of a bubbly sort of car this time. There we go. And put a little bit of bend in it. And I will go off the top as well. So I'm going to take this point to this point, and I'm going to come up the top a little bit to create this bubbly sort of looking car. Now I could have just drawn a big circle, but I thought I'd try out this arc tool for a moment. And I'm going to use my rubber just to take away these lines that I no longer need. There we go, so I've got that arcy sort of shape. So it's still flat, as I can see if I rotate round, it's just got a bit of an arc shape to it. Right, I'm going to quickly draw in, no, actually I'm going to leave it like that. So just for this demonstration purpose, I've got a shape that I want. No, actually I will. I'm going to just arc that a little bit more. I'm going to take the corners off here. You'll see what I mean in a second. So there is a shape that I want, good, and I want a nice rounded front over here as well. Okay, so that shape there, and I'll use my rubber tool again to get rid of that line and that line. Okay, so let's call this the silhouette of my car. Okay, this shape here. But I certainly don't want these big corner pieces anymore. So again, if I just remove these lines, you'll see that that part or that face disappeared. So as soon as I break this closed shape around here by deleting any of these lines, the face disappears, and that's really important. I'll clean up this line as well. So now what I have is essentially the shape of my car, but it is still flat. So now this is one face. If I take my selection tool and click on here, you can see this is one face. All right, so I can simply take my push-pull tool now, and I could pull that out to create my car shape. Okay, and of course from here I can go and add my wheels and divide it up and so forth. So that was just another method. So I guess what I call this version that we started with was sort of the additive method, where I'm taking existing shapes and adding to it, or possibly taking away from it. Excuse my voice there. This one is more sort of designing a silhouette and then starting from there. You'll always end up adding, subtracting at some point, but you can sometimes, especially if it's a 2D sort of shape that you're making into 3D, you might start by sketching out the 2D shape first and then just pushing it out or pulling it out into a 3D shape and then tweaking it from there. But anyway, we're going to delete this guy because we don't really want him, so I'm just going to use my selection tool to select that whole area and delete him using either right click or using my eraser. Now eraser is a little bit tricky because as you do it, you see you just start getting bits going away. So in this case, it is better to select the whole thing and right click and just erase that way. All right, one last thing I wanted to do in this video, which is to do a little bit of colorization. So we're going to add some color to this. So we're going to start with coloring the main body of the car. Okay, so we're going to come over to the right hand side and we're going to go to our materials option. So that's that little square with the checkerboard on one side, and we're going to be able to change materials. All right, so here we have just some basic colors that we can choose from, but materials are a lot more powerful than just that. Okay, but what I want is not just these basic colors I had from before, but I want to see all the colors available. In fact, all the materials. Let's not call them colors, let's call them materials. So I click on this little searching looking or browser. It gives me categories. So I have 3D printing materials. I have asphalt and concrete materials. So these are pre-made materials that have texture and pattern to them that look like either asphalt or concrete. I have bricks and cladding and siding, so you're doing a building, that's a great one. I have metal. I have different just generic patterns. And one of the great things is you can actually go later on and learn to make your own textures. So if there's a particular wall pattern or something that you like or a material that you're working with and you want to display it in SketchUp, you can actually create your own textures and put them in here. I'm going to, in this case, stick though with the colors for the moment. So I'm just going to close these up. I'm just going to use colors for now. Okay, you can see there's lots of colors because my car is going to be a, what should we make it? We're going to go with a, not black. I don't want to go black. I'm going to go with this sort of dark charcoaly grey. So once I've chosen my color, you'll notice it's already changed me to the paint bucket tool. So I can come around and basically click on any face, and you notice it doesn't go past the lines, it's just doing the faces. So I'm going to click around and rotate around, clicking on all the parts. So we didn't do the back of the car, so let's just pretend that's not there for the moment. We're just going to do the front and the sides, all right, just like that. We'll do the top as well. Okay. I'm then going to come and take a really dark black to do just the fronts of the wheels. That's fine, we can do that. All right, I'm now going to go higher up and find a bright yellow to do the headlights. And that's really how you colorize your image. And of course, by colorizing, it really adds a level of detail. It helps to really sell what you're trying to create. So even though they might not be perfect, it helps to add that level of detail. Okay, so we've got a car. It's not super exciting, but it is a car. And the one thing I want to do left is I want to just quickly jump into this category of materials and go with glass and mirrors. And if I take this glass here, for example, I just want to see what happens when I fill in the window. There we go. So not only did it give it a sort of blue tinge, but it's actually created a see-through part because it's actually put it up as a piece of glass. And again, that is the power of materials. It's not just about the color, but it affects the material or the part that you're clicking on itself. So this material actually knows that it should be see-through. And you can change the level of see-through. So it could be really clear like this kind of is, or it could be opaque, which means not easy to see through. We can go with a mirrored surface. So again, it's not easy to tell at the moment, but we could get a mirroring surface, different materials. So that one's got sort of that wire that runs through that glass. It's like a security glass. So the materials don't just change color, but they actually change quite a bit about the item that you're putting them on. So I'm just going to put this back to being a glass and put all my windows around this side of the car. So we've actually got see-through. So if I was doing a really detailed model, I could model the whole inside of my car. So you'd be able to see the seats and steering wheel, the dashboard and everything. And then when I put the nice window texture in, I'd be able to see inside to look at that. So there we go. That's a really quick introduction to modeling. Again, we didn't measure anything. We didn't do any really detailed stuff, but we have just had a good play with some of the materials. I would love for you to take this car idea and try and edit it further. So add more details, so add the backlights, maybe round out the shapes a little bit better, put a front radiator grille on, fix up the wheels, certainly do the other side of the car, fix up the bottom that we broke again, but basically just create your own version of a car, color and texture it appropriately, and see how creative you can get. When you have done this, we do want you to download and submit this car. So again, what I want you to do is to now come up to your 3 bars up in the top left, and this time you certainly can save it to your cloud, and I do suggest you do that. In fact, I'm going to click save first, and I'm going to call this a car once it loads. Okay, so I'm going to save it to my OneDrive and my digital tech folder. If you don't already have one, I suggest you make one in the future by clicking the add folder. Right, and down the bottom here, I'm just going to give it a name. So I've always told my classes, you do your last name, then your first name, and then the name of whatever it is you're creating. So I'm going to do car. I'm going to say save here. So you can see the name has changed up the top here, and it's been saved now to the car. To the cloud on OneDrive, but that doesn't help me submit it. So what I need to do is still come back up to these 3 lines again, and this time I'm going to say download, and I'm going to just leave it as the 2020 version. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to press OK, and then it's basically going to download it to my downloads folder with the same name that I've told the product to be, and that is the file that I would then go and submit onto Schoolbox. Okay, it's also the file that I could take somewhere else if need be and have it loaded up again. So this is a Sketchup file on my computer. If I modify this car now and press save, it's not going to change this downloaded version. It's only going to save over the top of the one on the OneDrive cloud. So you'd have to, again, download a new version onto your computer if you had to resubmit. So there we go. That's a bit of a quick introduction. We really glossed over a lot of tools. In most of these situations, the best thing you can do is play with it, try it out. I highly encourage you to Google lots of stuff. If you want to know how to do something in SketchUp, Googling is your best friend. Be clear about what you're looking for. So how to draw a circle, how to draw headlights, how to draw a mirror, whatever. If you do those sort of things, there's heaps and heaps of tutorial videos out there, heaps of instructions that you can follow, and you'll be able to bring those ideas into your own models as well. So let's see what you can create in a car form in the week that you have now.